Every day, organizations rely on hundreds, sometimes thousands, of governance policies and internal controls. An employee approves a payment, a manager reviews an exception, a compliance team monitors a threshold, a board receives a risk report, a system prevents someone from accessing information they should never see. Most of these controls operate quietly in the background until one fails. And when that happens, organizations often discover something uncomfortable. Having a policy is not the same as having control. Having a control is not the same as having an effective control. And having evidence that somebody completed a control does not necessarily prove that the underlying risk was actually managed. So what exactly separates good governance from governance that merely looks good on paper? How should policies translate into practical controls? Who should own them? How should they be tested? And what happens when an organization accumulates so many controls that nobody can explain which ones actually matter? This is Get to Know Governance Policies and Internal Controls. Today on My Premium Governance, we're going inside the machinery of organizational oversight, from policy design and control ownership to evidence, exceptions, monitoring, and emerging AI-powered governance. Because effective governance isn't simply about writing rules. It's about making sure the right things actually happen. To understand governance policies and internal controls, we first need to understand why organizations need them. Organizations have always faced a basic problem. As they grow, responsibility becomes distributed. The person who owns the organization cannot personally approve every payment, review every transaction, supervise every employee, or investigate every risk. Authority, therefore, has to be delegated. But delegation creates another question. How do you know people are doing what they are supposed to do? That question sits at the heart of internal control. Historically, relatively simple mechanisms provided protection. Separate the person receiving money from the person recording it. Require authorization before making large payments. Reconcile financial records. Keep inventories. Document important decisions. As organizations became larger and more complex, these individual safeguards developed into structured systems of internal control. Modern governance frameworks increasingly recognize that effective internal control extends far beyond accounting. Organizations must manage operational risks, technology risks, cybersecurity, regulatory obligations, third parties, conflicts of interest, data, business continuity, and many other areas. Governance policies consequently became an important mechanism for translating expectations into organizational rules. But policies alone could never solve the problem. Consider this statement: all significant payments must be appropriately authorized. That's a policy expectation. But what actually makes it happen? Perhaps payments above a certain threshold require 2 approvals. Perhaps the payment system prevents the initiator from being the final approver. Perhaps unusual payments trigger an alert. Perhaps finance performs a reconciliation. Those are controls. The distinction is fundamental. A policy says what should happen. A control helps make sure it actually happens. And modern governance depends on connecting the two. Governance policies and internal controls do not exist in isolation. They form part of a much larger governance ecosystem. At the top, boards and governing bodies establish oversight expectations. Management translates strategy and responsibilities into operational structures. Risk functions help identify and assess uncertainty. Compliance teams interpret applicable obligations. Business functions perform activities and operate controls. Internal audit may independently evaluate whether important parts of the system are appropriately designed and operating, and technology increasingly supports nearly every layer. The challenge is that these responsibilities overlap. Imagine a cybersecurity policy requiring privileged access to be tightly controlled. Who owns that requirement? The board? The CIO? Information security? IT operations? Risk management? The system administrator? The answer may involve several of them, but their responsibilities are different. Effective governance, therefore, requires clarity. Who owns the policy? Who owns the risk? Who performs the control? Who reviews the evidence? Who monitors exceptions? Who challenges the outcome? And who receives escalation when This chain is extremely important. Break one connection and oversight can weaken. The modern environment makes this increasingly difficult. Organizations may operate across jurisdictions. They rely heavily on external suppliers. Employees work remotely. Cloud systems change rapidly. Cyber threats evolve. Regulatory expectations develop. Artificial intelligence introduces new opportunities and new risks. Organizations therefore face a paradox. They need more sophisticated governance, but adding endless policies and controls can create complexity that makes governance less effective. The objective is not maximum control, it is appropriate control. At its core, a governance policy is a formal expression of organizational expectations, principles, responsibilities, or requirements. An internal control is a process, action, mechanism, or system designed to help manage risk and support achievement of objectives. Controls commonly fall into several categories. Preventive controls. Preventive controls attempt to stop an unwanted event before it occurs. Examples include system access restrictions, approval requirements, segregation of duties, transaction limits, mandatory fields, and automated validation. Imagine an employee attempts to approve a payment they created themselves. The system blocks the transaction. That's preventive control. Detective controls. Detective controls identify events that have already occurred or conditions requiring investigation. Examples include reconciliations, exception reports, transaction monitoring, quality reviews, access reviews, and management reporting. The event may already have happened, but the organization has created a mechanism to discover it. Corrective controls. Corrective controls help address identified problems. Examples could include remediation procedures, access removal, data correction, process redesign, recovery activities, and formal action plans. Good governance often uses a combination of preventive, detective, and corrective mechanisms. But there's another important distinction: manual versus automated controls. A manager reviewing a report each month is primarily manual. A system automatically preventing unauthorized access is automated. Neither is automatically superior. Automation can improve consistency and scalability, but automated controls depend on system configuration, data quality, change management, and technology access. A poorly configured automated control can consistently perform the wrong action thousands of times. Manual controls introduce different risks. Reviewers may overlook issues, evidence may be incomplete, standards may be interpreted differently, controls may become routine checkbox exercises. This leads us to one of the most important concepts in practical governance: control design versus control operation. A control can be beautifully designed but poorly performed, or it can be performed exactly as designed while the design itself is inadequate. Consider this control. The manager reviews the monthly risk report. Every month, the manager opens the report and clicks Reviewed. Technically, the control operated. But what exactly did the review require? Were unusual movements investigated? Were thresholds challenged? Were missing data identified? Was follow-up documented? Could another qualified person understand what the reviewer actually did? This is where control evidence becomes essential. Evidence might include approval records, system logs, review comments, exception reports, reconciliations, meeting records, workflow histories, supporting documents, and remediation records. But even evidence needs context. A timestamp proves somebody clicked a button. It doesn't necessarily prove they exercised meaningful judgment. The 5-stage control lifecycle. A practical control environment can be understood through 5 stages. 1. Identify the risk. What could prevent the organization from achieving its objective? 2. Design the response. What policy, procedure, or control should address that risk? 3. Assign ownership. Who is responsible for performing and overseeing it? 4. Execute an evidence. Was the control performed correctly at the appropriate frequency with appropriate evidence? 5. Monitor and improve. Is the control actually working? That's the cycle. Risk, design, ownership, execution, improvement. And it should never become static. Understanding the theory is important. But what does governance control look like in practice? Imagine a fictional international company called North Star Global. North Star works with hundreds of external service providers. Management identifies third-party risk as a major governance concern. The company creates a policy. Critical service providers must undergo appropriate due diligence before appointment and periodically thereafter. Sounds reasonable. But now the difficult questions begin. What qualifies as critical? What does appropriate due diligence mean? Who performs it? How often is it repeated? What happens when information is missing? Who can approve an exception? What happens if a supplier becomes high risk after appointment? A practical control framework therefore needs to convert the policy into measurable activities. Step 1. Each supplier receives a risk classification. Step 2. Critical suppliers undergo defined due diligence procedures. Step 3. Required evidence must be received before approval. Step 4. Exceptions require documented authorization. Step 5. Critical suppliers undergo periodic reassessment. Step 6. Material findings are escalated. Now imagine the organization has 200 critical suppliers. 199 were reviewed. One wasn't. Does that mean the control failed? Potentially. But governance professionals need more information. Which supplier was missed? Why? How long overdue is the review? What risk does that supplier represent? Was the missed review detected by another control? Has remediation begun? This demonstrates an important principle. Control effectiveness is rarely understood through a single percentage. A 99.5% completion rate sounds excellent, but if the missing 0.5% represents the organization's highest risk supplier, the picture changes dramatically. Practical warning signs. Governance professionals should watch for controls that always report green, produce identical evidence every period, have no recorded exceptions, depend entirely on one person, generate findings that never result in action, cannot be clearly linked to a risk, or have existed for years without being challenged. Another warning sign is what we might call control accumulation. A problem occurs. Management adds a control. Another incident occurs. Another control is added. A regulatory finding appears. 3 more controls are created. Years later, the organization has hundreds of controls, but nobody has removed obsolete ones. Strong governance therefore asks not only, what control should we add, but also, what control should we simplify, redesign, automate, or retire? Despite their importance, governance policies and controls are surrounded by misconceptions. Myth 1. More controls automatically mean better governance. Not necessarily. Too many controls can increase administrative burden, duplicate effort, and make critical controls harder to identify. Strong control environments focus attention where it matters most. Myth 2. If a control was completed, the risk was controlled. False. Completion tells us that an activity occurred. Effectiveness asks whether that activity meaningfully addressed the risk. Those are different questions. Myth 3. Automated controls are always stronger than manual controls. Again, no. Automation may improve consistency, speed, and traceability, but automated controls introduce dependencies. Who configured the rule? Who can modify it? Is the data reliable? Are system changes tested? An automated control may therefore require controls over the automation itself. Myth 4. Policies should cover every possible scenario. Trying to document every imaginable situation can produce policies so complicated that employees struggle to use them. Policies usually work best when responsibilities, principles, and requirements are clear, supported by procedures and practical guidance where appropriate. Myth 5. No exceptions means excellent control. This one deserves particular attention. Imagine a control that has reported 0 exceptions for 4 years. That could mean performance is outstanding, or it could mean the control isn't capable of detecting the problem it was designed to find. 0 findings should sometimes trigger curiosity, not celebration. An internal control can operate exactly as designed every single time and still be ineffective. Fact or fiction? Think about it. It's fact. If the underlying design does not adequately address the risk, perfect execution simply means an ineffective control is being performed consistently. And that distinction separates mature control environments from checkbox governance. Governance policies, procedures, and controls are often discussed as though they're interchangeable. They're not. Consider this simplified hierarchy. Policy defines the organizational expectation, what must happen. Procedure explains how activities should be performed. How should it happen? Control helps prevent, detect, or respond to risk. How do we make sure the important requirement is actually achieved? Evidence demonstrates what occurred. Can we prove it? Monitoring evaluates performance and emerging problems. Is it working? Assurance provides confidence through review, testing, or independent evaluation. Can we rely on it? These concepts overlap, but confusing them creates governance gaps. There is also an important difference between control existence and control effectiveness. A spreadsheet listing 500 controls demonstrates that controls have been documented. It does not demonstrate that those controls are appropriate. A mature governance environment should therefore move beyond inventory. Instead of asking how many controls do we have, ask which risks matter most, which controls address them, which controls are critical, what evidence proves they work, what happens when they don't, and perhaps most importantly, what are we not seeing? Governance policies and internal controls have already changed significantly. But the next transformation may be even greater. AI and automation could increasingly help organizations analyze control environments continuously rather than periodically. Imagine governance technology capable of identifying unusual control patterns. A control that normally takes 20 minutes is suddenly completed in 15 seconds. A reviewer approves 50 assessments within minutes. Evidence attached to multiple controls is suspiciously identical. An important control repeatedly finishes just before its deadline. A supplier's risk profile changes, but its monitoring frequency doesn't. These patterns may not prove that something is wrong, but they can tell governance professionals where to look. AI may also help organizations map policies to risks, controls, obligations, evidence, and findings. That could make it easier to identify duplicate controls, uncontrolled risks, outdated policies, conflicting requirements, weak evidence, and emerging patterns. But technology introduces its own governance challenges. AI-generated conclusions may be wrong. Models can produce false positives. Data may be incomplete. Automated recommendations can create over-reliance. Sensitive information requires protection. And accountability cannot simply disappear into an algorithm. The future of governance, therefore, isn't likely to be humans or technology. It is more likely to involve humans with technology. Technology performing continuous analysis. Humans providing judgment, challenge, accountability, and context. The strongest governance organizations may increasingly move from periodic control checking toward more continuous oversight. But regardless of how sophisticated the technology becomes, the fundamental questions remain surprisingly simple. What are we trying to achieve? What could prevent us from achieving it? What controls manage those risks? How do we know those controls work? And what do we do when they don't? Those questions are unlikely to disappear. Today, we discovered that governance policies and internal controls are related, but they are not the same thing. Policies establish expectations. Controls help translate those expectations into practical protection. We explored preventive, detective, and corrective controls. We examined manual and automated approaches. We learned why control design and control execution must be evaluated separately. And we discovered why evidence of completion should never automatically be confused with evidence of effectiveness. Perhaps the biggest lesson is this. Governance is not strengthened simply by having more policies, more controls, or more reports. It is strengthened when the right controls address the right risks, and when organizations can demonstrate that those controls actually work. Because the objective isn't to build the largest possible control framework. The objective is to build one people can understand, operate, challenge, and improve. As governance becomes increasingly digital, interconnected, and AI-assisted, that principle will become even more important. Technology can provide information, automation can provide consistency, AI can help identify patterns, but effective governance still requires something technology cannot simply declare into existence: accountability. Next time on My Premium Governance, we'll continue exploring the systems, responsibilities, and practices that help organizations strengthen oversight and make better informed decisions. If you found this episode valuable, like the video, subscribe to My Premium Governance, and tell us in the comments, what is the biggest warning sign that an internal control isn't really working? And if you're responsible for governance, oversight, policies, controls, or organizational accountability, continue exploring My Premium Governance and the wider MP Nerds ecosystem. Because strong governance isn't about proving that a process happened, it's about understanding whether it worked. Thank you for watching My Premium Governance, part of the MP Nerds ecosystem.